Guten Morgen. Habt ihr frische Ware?
Ano, pane, všechno je čerstvé z venkova.
Grüß Gott.
Come sta?
Dobrý den.
Stop everything, because what I'm about to show you is the most beautiful transformation in European history. And here's the shocking part. Almost nobody knows it ever happened. Picture this. It's 1650, while England is executing kings and fighting civil wars, while France is struggling with religious conflicts, while Spain is losing its global empire, something extraordinary is happening in the heart of Europe. Prague, a city that's about to become so magnificent, so architecturally stunning, so culturally sophisticated, that visitors will call it the most beautiful city in the world, more enchanting than Paris, more artistic than Florence, more imperial than Vienna. But here's what's going to blow your mind. This transformation isn't happening because Prague won some great victory or discovered some incredible wealth. It's happening because Prague lost the most devastating war in European history, the 30 Years' War, 1618 to 1648, a religious and political catastrophe that killed 1/3 of Central Europe's population, destroyed entire kingdoms, and left Prague a burned, looted, culturally devastated ruin. Yet from this apocalyptic destruction, the Habsburg emperors are about to create something unprecedented, the most spectacular Baroque architectural complex in Europe. A city so beautiful it defies rational explanation, an imperial capital that proves human creativity can transform total defeat into total artistic triumph. This is the story of how the darkest moment in Prague's history became the foundation for its greatest glory, how military catastrophe created cultural miracle, how political defeat produced artistic victory beyond anything Europe had ever seen. But there's something else about Prague's transformation that's going to change everything you think you know about European power. Because the same empire that seemed weak enough to let Protestant armies sack Prague is about to prove itself strong enough to create the most magnificent city on earth. The Habsburg Empire isn't collapsing, it's consolidating. And Prague is becoming the jewel that proves imperial power can create beauty that lasts forever, the impossible beginning. Let me take you back to the moment this miracle began. May 23rd, 1618. The Defenestration of Prague. Protestant Bohemian nobles throw 2 Catholic Habsburg officials out of a castle window, triggering the war that will nearly destroy European civilization. Picture what this rebellion represents. Bohemian Protestants rejecting Habsburg Catholic authority, German Protestant princes challenging Holy Roman Empire control, France supporting Protestant armies against Habsburg Spain, Sweden invading Central Europe to prevent Habsburg continental dominance. By 1620, Protestant forces have devastated Prague. The Battle of White Mountain destroys Bohemian independence forever. Czech Protestant nobility is executed, exiled, or converted by force. Prague's cultural treasures are looted by Swedish armies who carry off entire libraries, art collections, and architectural elements to Stockholm. For 30 years, Prague suffers systematic destruction. Religious persecution eliminates Protestant culture. Economic warfare destroys trade networks. Constant military occupation prevents reconstruction. Political repression eliminates local autonomy. By 1648, Prague isn't just defeated. It's culturally annihilated. The city that was once the sophisticated capital of Holy Roman emperors has become a provincial town under military occupation, stripped of its treasures, emptied of its intellectuals, reduced to imperial administrative center, with no independent cultural life. But here's what nobody understands in 1648. The same devastating victory that destroyed Prague's independence is about to create the resources needed for Prague's transformation into imperial magnificence. The Habsburg victory isn't just military, it's economic. Confiscated Protestant property provides enormous wealth. Forced Catholic conversion creates religious unity. Political centralization eliminates local resistance to imperial projects. Most importantly, the complete destruction of Prague's existing culture creates a blank canvas for imperial artistic vision unlimited by local traditions, competing authorities, or financial constraints. The Habsburgs can rebuild Prague from scratch according to their own aesthetic vision, using unlimited resources, without opposition from local interests that might compromise artistic unity. What seemed like cultural catastrophe becomes cultural opportunity beyond anything European rulers had ever possessed. The imperial vision, Section 50, Emperor Ferdinand III, stands in the ruins of Prague with the most ambitious architectural plan in European history. Transform this devastated city into a Baroque masterpiece that proves Habsburg power can create beauty worthy of divine authority. Picture the scale of Ferdinand's vision, not just rebuilding damaged buildings, but reimagining Prague as an integrated architectural artwork, where every church, palace, square and street creates unified visual experience, demonstrating imperial power through artistic magnificence. This isn't restoration, it's complete cultural transformation using Baroque artistic principles that didn't exist when Prague was first built. Baroque architecture, dynamic curves instead of static lines, dramatic light effects instead of uniform illumination, emotional intensity instead of rational restraint, religious ecstasy instead of Protestant simplicity. But Ferdinand's Prague project represents something more ambitious than architectural style. It's cultural warfare designed to prove that Catholic imperial civilization can create beauty that Protestant republican culture never achieved. Every Baroque church will demonstrate Catholic spiritual superiority through artistic sophistication. Every imperial palace will prove Habsburg authority through architectural grandeur. Every public square will show Bohemian submission through visual harmony. The Baroque transformation of Prague becomes a political statement as much as an artistic project. Imperial unity creates cultural achievement that political fragmentation destroys. By 1655, Ferdinand has assembled the most talented architectural team in European history, Italian Baroque masters who understand dramatic spatial design, Austrian engineers who can execute complex structural projects, Bohemian craftsmen who provide local knowledge and skilled labor. Most importantly, unlimited imperial funding that makes artistic vision practically unlimited. The wealth confiscated from Protestant rebels, combined with Habsburg silver mines in the Americas and tax revenues from Central European territories, creates resources for artistic patronage beyond anything European rulers had ever commanded. Prague will become proof that absolute imperial authority can achieve absolute artistic success. The architectural revolution. By 1660, Prague's Baroque transformation is creating architectural innovations that revolutionize European urban design and establish Prague as the most beautiful imperial capital on the continent. Picture the scope of construction. Prague Castle, completely rebuilt with Baroque facades that transform medieval fortress into palace complex, rivaling Versailles. St. Vitus Cathedral, renovated with Baroque elements that create dramatic religious experience, combining Gothic grandeur with Baroque emotional intensity. But the real revolution is happening in Prague's urban planning. The creation of integrated architectural complexes, where individual buildings combine to create unified visual experiences that had never been achieved in European city design. Hrachany Square, a Baroque architectural ensemble, where the imperial palace, religious buildings, and noble residences create harmonic composition, demonstrating social hierarchy through visual design. Lesser Town, an entirely new neighborhood built according to Baroque urban planning principles, with curving streets that create dramatic architectural vistas, public squares designed for ceremonial display, and residential palaces that demonstrate imperial prosperity. Most spectacularly, the Charles Bridge transformation, where medieval Gothic bridge becomes the centerpiece of Baroque architectural vista, connecting Prague's old and new districts through statue galleries that turn functional river crossing into artistic pilgrimage route. But Prague's Baroque architecture achieves something more profound than individual building beauty. It creates integrated urban experience where moving through the city becomes a form of architectural theatre. Walking through Baroque Prague means experiencing constantly changing visual perspectives as streets curve to reveal new architectural vistas, squares open to display ceremonial grandeur, and building facades create rhythm and movement that guide pedestrian experience. This is architecture as imperial propaganda. Every view demonstrates Habsburg power, every vista proves imperial prosperity, every decorative detail reinforces Catholic religious authority and political submission. By 1665, Prague has become something unprecedented, a complete Baroque city where architectural unity creates political meaning through visual beauty. The cultural flowering, but Prague's Baroque transformation creates something even more remarkable than architectural beauty, a cultural renaissance that establishes Prague as the intellectual and artistic center of Central Europe. By 1670, Habsburg Imperial patronage has attracted the most talented artists, musicians, writers and intellectuals from throughout the Holy Roman Empire to Prague, creating cultural sophistication that rivals Paris and Rome. Picture Prague's cultural life in 1670. Opera houses presenting the latest Italian works with staging that incorporates Baroque architectural principles into theatrical design. Concert halls where composers are developing musical forms that blend Italian Baroque techniques with Central European folk traditions. Libraries rebuilt with collections that exceed what Swedish armies stole, including manuscripts and books that represent the most advanced learning in theology, natural philosophy, mathematics and artistic theory. Most remarkably, art studios where painters and sculptors are creating works that establish distinctively Central European Baroque style, combining Italian artistic techniques with local cultural themes and Habsburg imperial symbolism. The Baroque cultural flowering in Prague isn't just imitation of Italian models, it's genuine innovation that creates new artistic forms through synthesis of international influences with local traditions. Prague composers are developing musical styles that will influence Bach, Mozart and Beethoven. Prague painters are creating visual techniques that will be adopted throughout European art. Prague architects are designing building forms that will be copied from Vienna to St. Petersburg. But Prague's cultural renaissance serves imperial political purposes as well as artistic achievement. Habsburg cultural patronage proves that imperial authority can create civilization worthy of European admiration and local loyalty. Bohemian nobles who might otherwise resent Habsburg rule are instead competing for imperial cultural favor through artistic patronage, architectural projects, and intellectual achievement that demonstrates loyalty through cultural participation. The same Baroque culture that shows imperial magnificence also creates local elite investment in imperial success. The religious transformation. At the heart of Prague's Baroque transformation lies something more profound than artistic achievement. A religious revolution that proves Catholic counter-reformation can create spiritual experience more compelling than Protestant alternatives. By 1675, Prague has become the showcase for Catholic Baroque religious architecture that combines artistic beauty with spiritual intensity to create forms of worship that appeal to emotions, senses, and intellect simultaneously. Picture entering a Prague Baroque church in 1675, light streaming through windows positioned to create dramatic illumination effects, architectural curves that direct visual attention toward altar spaces designed for ceremonial magnificence, decorative programs that tell religious stories through artistic methods that make Catholic theology emotionally accessible. This isn't just decoration, it's religious pedagogy through artistic experience that makes Catholic doctrine more comprehensible and more compelling than Protestant emphasis on scripture reading and sermon listening. Prague's Baroque churches prove that religious truth can be communicated through beauty as effectively as through intellectual argument, that artistic sophistication can serve spiritual purposes more effectively than artistic simplicity. The religious transformation of Prague establishes techniques that will define Catholic worship throughout the Habsburg Empire and beyond. Integration of architecture, sculpture, painting and music to create total artistic environments that make religious experience emotionally overwhelming and intellectually convincing. But Prague's religious Baroque serves political purposes beyond spiritual conversion. It demonstrates that Habsburg imperial authority represents divine will through artistic achievement that proves God's blessing on Catholic imperial rule. Protestant criticism of Catholic superstition and idolatry seems less convincing when Catholic artistic achievement exceeds Protestant cultural accomplishments by such obvious margins. The beauty of Prague's Baroque churches becomes argument for Catholic theological superiority and Habsburg imperial legitimacy that works more effectively than theological debate or political coercion. The imperial court magnificence. By 1680, Prague has become the setting for Habsburg imperial court life that rivals Versailles in magnificence while creating distinctively Central European forms of imperial culture and political ceremony. Picture imperial ceremonial life in Baroque Prague. State receptions in palace halls designed to overwhelm visitors with Habsburg wealth and artistic sophistication. Religious ceremonies in cathedral spaces that demonstrate imperial piety through architectural grandeur. Public processions through Baroque streets designed to display imperial authority through visual spectacle. But Prague's imperial court culture achieves something more sophisticated than simple royal display. It creates forms of political theatre that integrate local Bohemian traditions with imperial Habsburg symbolism to demonstrate that imperial authority enhances rather than destroys local cultural identity. Imperial ceremonies incorporate Czech cultural elements while demonstrating Habsburg power. Religious celebrations combine Catholic counter-Reformation theology with local devotional practices. Architectural projects use Bohemian craftsmen and materials while following imperial artistic vision. The result is imperial culture that feels authentically Bohemian while serving Habsburg political objectives. Cultural synthesis that creates loyalty through participation rather than submission through coercion. Prague's imperial court becomes a model for Habsburg rule throughout Central Europe. Imperial authority that succeeds through cultural attraction rather than military occupation. Political centralization that works through local elite cooperation rather than foreign administrative control. By 1685, Prague's imperial court attracts nobility from throughout the Habsburg Empire who compete for participation in cultural life that represents the most sophisticated civilization in Central Europe. The same city that was devastated by religious war has become the center of imperial culture that proves political unity can create cultural achievement exceeding anything achieved through political fragmentation. The economic miracle. But Prague's cultural transformation creates something equally remarkable. Economic prosperity that demonstrates how imperial artistic patronage generates wealth through cultural tourism, craft production and international trade connections that make Prague a commercial center as well as an artistic capital. By 1690, Prague's Baroque architecture has created a tourism economy that attracts wealthy visitors from throughout Europe who come to experience the most beautiful imperial city on the continent. Picture the economic impact: hotels and restaurants serving international travelers, craft workshops producing artistic goods for export, construction industries employing thousands of skilled workers for ongoing architectural projects, cultural industries supporting musicians, artists and performers who create entertainment for imperial court and tourist visitors. Prague's artistic reputation creates commercial advantages that extend far beyond tourism. International merchants prefer conducting business in cities that demonstrate prosperity and sophistication. Skilled artisans migrate to centers that offer advanced training and career opportunities. Financial services develop to support cultural patronage and artistic investment. Most importantly, Prague's imperial cultural status creates political connections that generate economic opportunities throughout the Habsburg Empire and beyond. Prague merchants gain access to imperial court contracts. Prague bankers provide financial services for imperial projects. Prague manufacturers receive protection and support for international trade expansion. The Baroque transformation that began as imperial cultural propaganda has created genuine economic development that makes Prague's prosperity self-sustaining rather than dependent on continued imperial subsidies. By 1695, Prague generates enough tax revenue and economic activity to fund its own continued cultural development while contributing to imperial finances rather than requiring imperial support. The artistic investment that seemed like imperial luxury has proven to be economic development that creates political stability through shared prosperity. The political consolidation. By 1700, Prague's Baroque transformation has achieved the ultimate Habsburg objective, converting Bohemian resistance to imperial rule into Bohemian pride in imperial participation, transforming political defeat into cultural victory that creates loyal commitment to imperial success. Picture the political transformation. Bohemian nobles who once rebelled against Habsburg authority now compete for imperial cultural favor and participation in Prague's artistic renaissance. Czech craftsmen and artists who might have supported local independence now benefit from imperial patronage and international recognition. Most remarkably, Bohemian cultural identity has become integrated with Habsburg imperial identity rather than opposed to it. Being Czech now means participating in Prague's imperial cultural achievement rather than resisting foreign political control. The Baroque transformation has created what political theorists call legitimate authority, power that commands obedience through attraction rather than coercion, loyalty through benefits rather than fear. Prague proves that imperial rule can succeed through cultural policy as effectively as through military control and with far more stable long-term results. The city that was conquered through military defeat has been reconquered through cultural victory. But this second conquest creates willing submission that makes resistance politically impossible and psychologically unattractive. By 1700, Prague's success has become the model for Habsburg imperial policy throughout Central Europe. Political centralization through cultural attraction, imperial authority through artistic achievement, religious unity through aesthetic experience. The techniques developed in Prague will be applied in Vienna, Budapest and other Habsburg cities, creating an imperial cultural network that makes the Habsburg Empire the most culturally sophisticated political system in Europe. The eternal legacy. Standing in Prague today, you can still see the Baroque city that the Habsburg emperors created from the ruins of religious war. You can walk through Hradčany Square, cross the statue-lined Charles Bridge, and enter churches where architectural beauty still creates the spiritual experience that 17th-century artists intended. But in 1680, this wasn't historical monument. It was living proof that human creativity can triumph over human destruction, that artistic vision can transform political catastrophe into cultural achievement that lasts forever. Imagine one final moment. Picture yourself walking through Prague on a golden evening in 1690. The setting sun illuminates Baroque facades that turn the entire city into architectural theatre. Church bells ring across a skyline that creates visual harmony from every viewing angle. Street musicians perform compositions that blend local folk traditions with international Baroque sophistication. You're witnessing the triumph of beauty over conflict, creativity over destruction, imperial vision over local resistance. Prague proves that human civilization can create lasting achievement even from minus, or perhaps especially from, moments of complete cultural devastation. The Baroque transformation of Prague teaches the most hopeful lesson in European history. No defeat is permanent if human creativity remains unlimited. No destruction is final if artistic vision can reimagine what seemed lost forever. Prague's Baroque architects didn't just rebuild what religious war destroyed. They created something more beautiful than what had existed before, proving that human culture can emerge stronger from catastrophe if the response to destruction is more ambitious than mere restoration. But Prague also demonstrates the political power of cultural achievement. Beauty becomes the most effective form of propaganda. Artistic sophistication creates the most lasting form of political authority, and cultural integration achieves the most stable form of imperial control. The Habsburg emperors discovered something that every political leader should understand. Military victory is temporary, but cultural achievement creates loyalty that lasts for centuries. Prague's Baroque splendor outlived the Habsburg Empire, survived 2 world wars, endured communist rule, and continues to inspire visitors from around the world more than 400 years after its creation. The imperial jewel that rose from religious war proves that human creativity is stronger than human destructiveness, that artistic vision can triumph over political conflict, and that beauty remains when power fades. Every generation faces Prague's choice, whether to respond to cultural destruction through artistic creation or through continued conflict, whether to build beauty that unites different peoples or walls that separate them, whether to create culture that outlasts political systems or politics that destroys cultural achievement. That's all for our journey through Prague's transformation from religious war devastation to imperial Baroque magnificence. If there's another moment when artistic vision triumphed over political catastrophe, another place where beauty emerged from destruction, another story about how human creativity can transform defeat into lasting achievement, let me know in the comments. Because the real lesson of Baroque Prague isn't that imperial power can create beautiful cities, it's that beautiful cities can outlast imperial power, and that cultural achievement becomes the most permanent form of political legacy. The Habsburg Empire ended. Prague's beauty never will.